And we're back. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And I'll tell you what, a little off beat for us again because we're going to do some NBA right now. And I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the best times of the year of the NBA season. I know there's no actual basketball being played. Summer League is still around the corner. And the obviously everybody still has that buzz from the Warriors winning the finals, but it's one of the best part of the year because the draft just got finished, and we also always like to take a look at the who won and who lost with that, but also as well NBA free agency is going to get hot and heavy as of July 1st, and who better to talk about what's going on in the NBA world but the man, the myth, the legend, our NBA expert himself, Anthony Barbarin. Anthony, it's so good to have you back on the program. How are you today?
I'm good, man. It's always a pleasure to come on, man. I love talking sports. I love talking NBA. And I always have a good time when I'm on.
Awesome. Myself as well, as two devoted NBA fans who love to shoot the breeze about everything going on in the basketball world. It's truly a pleasure anytime I get a chance to sit down and talk to you. Indeed. And with obviously with the Inside Sports coming on the way here, and obviously starting that great program as well. Definitely, hopefully we'll get more chances to talk about the NBA season, both on and off. But right now, we're going to talk about all the goings on in the NBA world. And first off, I want to get your thoughts on the big trade that just went down. Chris Paul, after meeting with Clippers officials and letting them know he was going to go into free agency and become a member of the Houston Rockets as per his choosing, they decided very quickly, the organization, to come together with a trade as best they could with the Houston Rockets. So I ask you, Anthony, your thoughts on the Chris Paul trade, how it went down, and will he be a good fit with James Harden?
This crazy trade. I don't think it happened out of the blue. I kind of saw not the trade happening, but maybe him leaving. I thought he would try the Spurs, but I think for him, it's a better fit. I don't know how well he'll fit with James Harden. It'll take James Harden off the ball. And so those astronomical numbers that you saw from him this year, I think will
they'll go down. They'll go down most assuredly.
They'll definitely go down. Assist-wise might skyrocket though. You'll see the Steve Nash effect in that Mike D'Antoni system. And I think it's a better fit for him than San Antonio because I don't think Greg Popovich would have been okay with the way Chris Paul plays, which is he dominates the ball. He has to have the ball in his hands. He doesn't play well off the ball, swinging the ball around, movement the way Steph Curry does now. The way Greg Popovich and that same system, which is the same one Golden State runs. Chris Paul is the ball dominant point guard, and so that's D'Antoni's system. Fast-paced, pick and roll, move the ball to open shooters on, one pass, two passes. And I think that's suited for him better. However, I don't know. It's not their backcourt as far as what to expect from them as far as how far they go in the playoffs. That bothers me. I'm not a fan of the D'Antoni system once you get into the playoffs and you can lock in on what you do to that system as a defense. But the regular season, I think they'll probably win a lot of games.
Well, that's definitely some great insight on that. And I'm not as loving with it as you are, but I think from the fact that I think Chris Paul has an excellent mid-range game, and he has, like you said, he has a tendency to dominate the ball. But then again, Harden at his best was dominating the ball. So it's kind of, how are you going to be able to share that dominance is up for debate indeed. Plus, they got rid of a lot of depth in order to clear cap space. So hopefully, Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets can figure out ways to recoup some of that depth that they had, although they weren't too many valuable players outside of Patrick Beverley. There was still some depth issues with Sam Decker. Also as well, they had, like I said, Patrick Beverley and whatnot, and I mean, I guess the Clippers did about as best they could in trying to make a good out of a bad situation, but still, for both teams, it's kind of like, ooh, what went wrong in Clipperland? Was it the friction between Austin Rivers and what was going on with the rest of the team, and with Houston? Is this something that's going to be good enough for them to get over the hump and meet up with Golden State and give them a chance to win? We'll have to wait and see. But definitely some pointed comments indeed. In San Antonio, I think you're right. If he was very dominant, I think Popovich may have an issue with that as well. So we'll see how that works out. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Also, the whole Clipper thing, I think it was multiple incidents, multiple factors other than just the Austin Rivers thing. They didn't want, from what I've read, they didn't want to give him the 5-year max, which I think was a smart move. I think it's a Jerry West move, more than a Doc Rivers move. You don't want to pay $40 million to a 37-year-old point guard.
No, I agree with that as well. And you got to remember that Chris Paul being the head of the players union, he and LeBron actually kind of designed that supermax for those that reached all NBA status. So in the short term, it would positively affect older players such as LeBron and, well, Chris Paul, correct?
Right. And that's the thing. I think that was one of the bigger issues. Chris Paul is if he gets the 5-year max, he'll be 37. So he's 32, 31, 32 now. I mean, you see a guy that small. He's never been an elite athlete. So I really see him having, at his current level, 2, maybe 3 years to play at the level that he's playing at. So the thing is, you don't want to be stuck in, what you call the Kobe Bryant crisis, where the last 2 years you're paying him this monstrous salary, and you can't move forward with your franchise or get certain guys because you're salary. So I think that was a smart move, especially if you felt like you weren't moving and you were stuck in the same place. Now, granted, the Clippers have had terrible injuries, been plagued by terrible injuries, in the postseason. So you can't have that optimism. But when you look forward and you go, okay, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to basically shoot for the next 3 years, or are we going to try to continue to build our franchise? They really have to concentrate on re-signing Blake Griffin. But their star players outside of Paul, are still 28, 20. I think one's 27, 28. So they have one of the oldest rosters in the league. So you got to start to try to pluck some of those old guys out of there and start to try and get your team to a place where they can be competitive and get that one player or 2 players that put you over the top while still being young enough to compete at a high level for a number of years.
That's definitely some pointed comments indeed. I think that they need to really evaluate. I know there were some rumors before the NBA draft that DeAndre Jordan, they were looking to ship out. I have a think that his style may not be conducive to whoever comes instead as far as a point guard is concerned. So maybe looking to ship him out for some real good assets down the road might be something they need to revisit, something they need to look at, especially if they do go after Blake Griffin very heavily and make him the cornerstone of the franchise going forward. So I also want to get your thoughts. Guess I'll tell you what, it's been hot and heavy with news in the NBA world even since the draft. So we've also heard that Phil Jackson, the executive vice president of the New York Knicks, has been fired, terminated after I guess what you can say is, at being kind, is a very dubious tenure as executive of New York Knicks, just to be, polite, I guess we can say. Some of his moves were highly questionable. Outside of Porzingis drafting him, I don't see many pluses under his regime. What are your thoughts on the Phil Jackson firing, and do you think that the Knicks will grow from this going forward?
I think they have nowhere to go but up. I think the firing is
Yeah.
a year and a half too late. Like, to me, it was the writing was. I don't even know if writing on the wall is the proper word to say. It was just obvious. He was terrible at his job. Now he's he's an all-time great coach. We know this. He's got all the rings, all the accolades. What he did with players in his system. But as a president, he was terrible. He didn't draft well. He didn't sign good free agents. He didn't acquire good contracts, and he insisted on forcing his philosophy and his system on a coach. When you're a president, when you're in the office, that's not your job. Your job is not to coach from the rafters and try to make somebody run a system that you want to run. If that's the case, then you coach. You don't bash your best player the entire time you're there to try to run him out of town. I think he was terrible at his job, and I don't think he had the incentive to be great. Like, there was nothing there for him to want to be great at this job, and I don't that was in his mind. He was getting something like, I don't know. His contract was ridiculous. By the time he was finished, it worked out that he was making $50,000 a day. Just it seemed like he didn't care enough about the job. It's something that came far too late. It's something that needed to be done. Should have been done a year ago. And now they have nowhere to go but up because he had them at the bottom. You still have the James Dolan problem, but you remove one ward at a time. So,
Well, hopefully they can get the general manager position, executive position correct on this occasion, excuse me, because, after Isaiah Thomas and Phil Jackson, both not exactly doing well for the Knicks franchise, let's hope that they can make a better choice going forward. And like you said, James Dolan is still the root of the problem with the New York Knicks. But at least, maybe with his money, they can actually get themselves and strike it rich with a very, very good executive who has the knowledge, who has the experience of being there, and be able to go ahead and project out and be able to make the moves necessary to build for a better future for the New York Knicks. Because everybody says, the NBA is so much better when the power teams like the New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Lakers, Chicago Bulls, et cetera, are in the mix. So if that's the case, then definitely looking forward to that indeed, if they get someone good in place. So let's hope that for the franchise and those long-suffering Knicks fans indeed. Well, it's right around the corner. It's free agency. It's really hot, going to be hot and heavy come July 1st. So I want to get your opinions on maybe two or three of the actual, top tier free agents that you think are going to move, or you think that could move. I'm sorry. Start off with Gordon Hayward. There's also Paul Millsap. There's also Blake Griffin. Any one of those players look like they're possibilities of moving. Which ones stick out to you as ones that most likely will take a chance and move on to a different team? And then one maybe that's people are forgetting about that may actually do a team really well.
I think I actually think Gordon Hayward and Paul Millsap will both probably change teams. I think Paul Millsap, in my opinion, I think he's gone for good. I don't even think that Atlanta wants him back.
No, they don't. They're going to, looks like they're doing a total reset, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I think Paul Millsap is gone. Where he goes, I'm not sure yet. Um, Gordon Hayward has some options, but I think he has a like a 25% chance where he could go back to Utah. But it to me is dependent on what he wants. Does he believe he can win a championship there? I don't think he does. So I think moving to another franchise could do that and do more for him as a brand. Um, Blake, I think Blake could leave, but I think with him you might get the Russell Westbrook thing, whereas Kevin Durant leaves and he goes, "I'm not going anywhere. This is my team. This is my franchise. I'm re-upping for the long haul." Um, he's essentially the first franchise player they ever had. And so if he re-ups, he can finish his career that way. They've said they wanted him to finish his career there. So I can see that happening. But then there's some other, maybe not higher end free agents that can really help teams out. And there's one or two guys I see that could very much benefit from a new team. I like one guy I'm looking to see what happens is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I'm wondering if anybody is willing to give him a shot. I think on a new team and a new system, new coach, franchise, I think he could blossom from. I think he averaged just under 14 points a game, but
he's a very solid two-way player.
A very good defensive player. He's a good shooter, slasher. He has a nice game, and I think another coach, another system, playing around better players can help him elevate his game, and make him a better player. There's also guys, Danilo Gallinari, Jeff Teague, Rudy Gay now. So there's a lot of free agents. I think it's going to be another one of those. We'll see when certain guys go, the chips will fall. Will all start to fall in place rather than just, a great guy goes here, a great guy goes there, and that's it. I think, Gordon Hayward goes here, so guys fall into this line, or Paul Millsap will, like the Chris Paul trade. Now, had they not traded him, he would have gone there as a free agent. That can sway a couple guys maybe to go there. So I think it's going to be interesting. But I think like you said, the big three, Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are free agents, but no one expects them to not go back and re-up and try to, continue what they started off to potentially be a dynasty down the road.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Guys, Gordon Hayward, Blake Griffin, and Paul Millsap. I think those are the three people that you're really looking at. Kyle Lowry is another one.
Yeah. Toronto's interested in doing a rebuild because obviously what they've done so far hasn't worked out to get them over the hump with Cleveland. That could definitely be a possibility as well. Right. Excellent picks indeed. And Blake Griffin, don't think just because Chris Paul left, someone who was reportedly he was having issues with all the time, don't think that he's just going to automatically come back. I think he's going to feel out offers first. And especially if Boston doesn't get a Hayward, then you might see them go after a Griffin or a Millsap indeed. So yeah, definitely some good points indeed. I also want to pick out two more individual free agents. They're restricted, so the price might come higher than you would normally would if they were unrestricted. But JaMychal Green and Jonathan Simmons, who both had very, very strong seasons. They're both in their around 27, 28, so they're still in the prime of their careers. if you can throw a number at them that might be too rich for Memphis and San Antonio, you could get two really solid players there. Indeed, those are some of the ones that I picked out from what I saw. And then, like you said, as far as Kyle Lowry is still, even at his age, at 30 plus, can still do a great job. Hopefully he can stay healthy for whoever he goes to, whether it stays at Toronto or goes to another team or whatnot, because his I guess durability, we're coming around playoff time. He's been hurt the past couple times in playoff action. Let's see where he can go from there, and maybe take a team, whether it's Toronto or someone else, to even a loftier status as well. Definitely some good choices and some good thoughts there on NBA free agency. And then last but not least, I mean, we just had the NBA draft. I know that you and I both are fascinated by what's coming around the corner and which teams are picking where and what needs are they addressing, and then all the little draft trades, the positioning that was taking place as far as who picks here and who picks where. Your thoughts on the NBA draft? A couple teams which you thought really won out, and a couple that maybe kind of missed a mark this NBA draft season.
The draft was interesting. 1 and 2 fell pretty much how you thought they were going to fall. We have Danny Ainge, who has accumulated 1,000 draft picks and refuses to trade any of them for a star player.
He's got a ton of assets right now. I don't know what he's got to do something with them at some point in time. Correct?
Something, and it's like you had the opportunity to get a certain player. Now he moved back from 1 to 3. And I know some people question that because there's this Lonzo Ball hype, and there's this feeling that he's this can't miss player, which I'm not sold on. I actually like what they did.
So you're not as high as on Markelle Fultz, are you?
I think it depends on what you have. Now Markelle Fultz is a scorer at the point guard position. So for me, if you are Boston and your best player is Isaiah Thomas, and he's your point guard and he scores, you getting another player that does the same thing at the same position, it kind of doesn't make sense unless we're going to go with this youth movement and move on from Isaiah Thomas. So if you're not going to me, the smart thing to do is to move back or to just draft another player at a different position, or trade away that pick altogether and get yourself a veteran star player. So they went, to me, in my opinion, what I saw was that they went with the youth movement. They drafted Jason Tatum, who is honestly, for me, my favorite player in the draft. I don't know if he'll be the best player in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if he is. Because the only thing when I watch him play that I see that he lacks, elite explosiveness. Everything else in his game, to me, is NBA All-Star. He has that level of potential in his game. Markelle Fultz, who Philadelphia got, I think fits them well, because you have a Ben Simmons who you believe is going to be the all-around player that you need to distribute and run the team. And so at point guard, you have a guy who, sorry, the audio's out.
Oh, no. I'm just mentioning something as well, as far as with Markelle Fultz, he might fit better, like you were saying, on Philadelphia with hopefully a healthy team. Correct?
Right. If they can be healthy, with him, I think they're still considering the fact that they might be healthy. If they are all healthy, still being a year away from making the playoffs, but you're building something with a young nucleus of star players, similar to what the Timberwolves did, who I think had the best draft of anybody simply by acquiring Jimmy Butler. I think they'll be a playoff team, barring injuries for sure.
I agree with you on that.
I think
They were the big winners indeed.
Yeah, I think defensively they're going to be amazing defensively, with Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler, and even with Rubio defensively getting steals. He has long arms. I think they had the best draft per se, even though that's not the big that they drafted a player. It's the move that they made to make their team better. To me, I like what, even though they have had the worst, or right there with with New York and the Lakers, one of the worst front offices of like. I like what the Kings did in the draft. I like them getting De'Aaron Fox, who is a souped up version of Darren Collins, if for lack of a better term. He's fast, he's quick, he pushes the pace, he can score.
But he's two of the best things in the NBA, younger and cheaper, correct?
Exactly. And you put him with Buddy Hield, who had Buddy Hield played his whole season with the Kings, the way he played, probably would have been Rookie of the Year. He was that good.
Yeah, I agree.
Once he got out of got away from the Pelicans. So with that, then they went and got Josh Jackson. I believe that's who they drafted, Josh Jackson. No, I'm sorry, not Josh Jackson. It was I can't remember the North Carolina guard.
Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson?
Justin Jackson.
Yes.
And I think they'll play him at the 3. He has that kind of size where he can play small forward. And so you're beginning to build a young nucleus of talent. You have a point guard, you have a shooting guard, you have a small forward. Willie Cauley-Stein as your center. Papagiannis, as a backup if you like him. And then I believe they drafted Harry Giles out of Duke, who had it not been for the injuries that he sustained the last few years, would have been a top 5 pick. And they got him later in the draft in the first round. So I think what they did drafting this year was very, very smart. Now, I don't have the faith in their front office to that come to fruition, but I think they're on the right track. The Lakers.
Yes, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. There were some great picks because I was looking at and I was analyzing over the past few days. In fact, I was just touching up on it now. I'm like, man, he took all of my good picks as far as it's concerned. That's definitely a Sacramento with if the Harry Giles experiment works and he can actually get back into shape to where he was when he was the number 1 heralded recruit coming out of high school. He can that draft for Sacramento Kings could just be far superior than anyone has at all. Because of him, and it worked for Sky Labissiere. I'll get his name right. When he becomes a bigger star, I'll try to get his name more correct in the future. But that worked for Sacramento last year, and he's going to be a very strong player indeed. And if Harry Giles can grow similar to that, definitely that. Sacramento Kings, who's been a laughingstock of the media and the entire league for the past few years, definitely will come around indeed quicker rather than later or whatnot. So, and then I think two of the losers, I guess, to me, obviously the Bulls for trading Jimmy Butler and getting, I think, a nominal return. Zach LaVine coming off an ACL injury. If he'd have been healthy, I would have thought stronger about it, but that was kind of iffy. Lauri Markkanen is I guess he's not a strong rebounder. He's not a strong defender, but yes, he can shoot the 3. So, but if he's not good enough defensively to stay on the floor, what does that do for you? And then also Chris Dunn, who everybody was praising would be the steal of the draft at number 5. Turned out to be not the steal of the draft so far at this point, but let's hope he can get his career back on track with a new team. Indiana, drafted two of the UCLA players not named a Ball. And I don't know if they really got themselves at their positions okay, that they were chosen. TJ Leaf, again, there's a situation where he's got a nice jumper and whatnot, but is he good enough defensively to stay on the floor? He was really substandard at UCLA, so in that realm, so we'll have to wait and see. And then the other individual from UCLA, the Ike Anigbogu, he's got, I guess it was uncovered in his medical some chronic knee problems, which could debilitate his career. And yeah, he was okay to get maybe in the late 40s or whatnot, but if he doesn't stay healthy and on the floor, it really won't work out for the Indiana Pacers long term. And plus, he didn't make a trade for Paul George as of yet. So that, and each day that goes by, the potential, things that they can get back of quality for Paul George is going to get less and less indeed.
Right.
So I have to say Indiana kind of was a big loser on the deal as well, especially seeing how Minnesota was able to trade Jimmy Butler for some kind of questionable assets at this point in time. So those are some great points indeed. I had a couple other winners indeed I had picked out, but you took them, you got them, and you were like right on the number with that. So that's why you are the NBA expert around here. We love and appreciate having you on each and every time. And it's going to be hot and heavy once NBA free agency comes around. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Summer League is right around the corner, both in Orlando and then Las Vegas right here after that. So definitely looking forward to that indeed, so we can start seeing the players from the future and seeing where they might go and might develop as players. So definitely looking forward to that indeed as well. Anthony, it's, as always, it's truly a pleasure to having you on the program. And, like I said, we got to get you back on the program a little bit more going forward with Inside Sports and then Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse. We just want to make sure that we get your thoughts on the NBA scene as much as possible, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome indeed. Want to thank you for being part of the broadcast. That is Anthony Barbarin, our NBA expert. He is here, and he can answer your questions out there. So if you have any questions on the NBA scene that both he and I can talk about on the show, send us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also, you can shoot us a DM, direct message at Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, and Inside Sports on Facebook. You can send us a direct message, and we'll be able to talk about it on an upcoming episode indeed.